Lots. Hello, everybody, again. I don't know what you're going to do with that first part. Somebody can do whatever they need to do with it. Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for your service. You might have heard that little bit already, or you may not. So I was just about to say that we are in the midst of our step 9, soon to be coming to the end of step 9. So we've been covering that over the last number of weeks, which has been a really beautiful thing. For me, it has been, if I'm really honest, a challenging step for me to go through. I was saying just before the meeting started that there has been times over the last number of weeks where a lot of the stuff that we've talked about I've had to take to my own inventory, because there's some things that have been bubbling up for me. But like I said before the meeting, thank God we have the tools available to be able to continue to work that stuff through. If you like, the easy way to put it is my ego has been eating me alive in the background, when I leave the meeting, and I've given examples of my own life and how I've used the amends process to help amend relationships and that have ultimately been rectified in a way that has been 100% appropriate. Every single outcome from my amends has been the outcome that it was supposed to be. Really and truly, it is full acceptance around all of that. So, but what has been challenging for me is to reflect on that and just to say that if there was anything else that I could have done, anything else that I could have seen, but always being brought back into the moment of right now, everything is perfect the way that it is, no matter what. And as a result of that amends process, if people have decided to leave my life, then that's great. If people have stayed in my life, then that's great. And if people are still deciding whether they want to be in my life or not, then that's great too. All of it is okay. And by the grace of God, I have a set of spiritual tools that I use every day to enable me to stay on track with my recovery, to continue to make progress every single day. So this opportunity to do this step with you guys over the last number of weeks has been remarkable, really and truly remarkable, because it has enabled me to have another look and a deeper look at where I sit in my approach to things. And one of the things that has come up in my inventory each night, especially from last week for some reason, and I just want to share this with you guys, is that my interpretation of the word forgiveness, or my interpretation of the word forgive, I've used over the last number of weeks a very personal approach to how I have applied this, because and it's really, really important to recall the fact that this program is not a religious program. It's a spiritual program. And in the spiritual realm of the world, forgiveness might be seen in various different ways, by various different streams, by various different people. And I place no judgment or opinion on anybody's version of what forgiveness is. But through this program, how I relate it in going through this is that I always come back to that line that we've talked about over the last number of weeks around the fact that I am here to place myself to be of maximum service to God. In the first instance, that's what I'm here for. Therefore, every single one of these amends conversations is about what I do for God, to give it to God, because ultimately the outcome is nothing to do with me. I'm taking the spiritual action, that being having the conversations, irrespective of what the outcome is. So the only way that when I'm going into each of these conversations, is knowing in my heart of hearts that, and knowing deep down within, that I am doing this for God and that I'm giving the outcome to God. So I don't wish to place any controversy on anything, and your way of dealing with forgiveness might be related to the organized religion that you're part of, or a very spiritual way of living that you do, which is different to mine, and all of that is okay. But the reality of it is, we don't get involved in the controversy of, oh, well, MAGS says, no. I stick to the principles of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I stick to the general principles within these amends that are set out. And you've heard me say it over the last couple of weeks that the amends that are outlined in the book as examples, you may not have encountered. You may not have encountered the affairs, the criminal offences, the stealing of the money, or you might not have had problems with business acquaintances or whatever. But the general principles of how to approach these amends apply in any respect and apply in any manner, that we're going out to do these amends with a sincere desire to right the wrong, that we're going to people in a calm, manner, that we're going to these people to talk about our side of the street, to keep our side of the street clean. We're not there to criticize them and to bring up their stuff. Quite the opposite of that. So I just wanted to share that with you this morning. And for anybody that this is the first time hearing this, they're probably thinking, what's she going on about? That's okay. I probably don't make much sense each week anyway. So we're on to page 82, the first full paragraph on page 82. I do just want to go back to the previous paragraph, though, that started on the bottom of page 81, just as a reminder to everybody that our design for living, because this is a way of living. Okay, it's a program of action, it's a program of recovery, but it is a way of living. My way of living is incredibly different before I became recovered than from before I became recovered. So this design for living is not a one-way street. In this part of the amends process, we're talking about those relationships that we've had, outside of our own, intimate relationships, outside of our marriages, all of those extracurricular activities, if you like, that we got up to. There are other people that have been involved, but it is as good for the wife as it is for the husband. It's not just that one-way street where we have to beat ourselves up for the rest of our lives. We have to make the amends. We have to make the change. And it goes on to say, if we can forget, so can she. And the beauty of this process and these conversations is to understand from the other individual, we're presenting our position on it from all of the stuff that we found out through our inventories. We're asking the other person how it makes them feel when we talk to them about what we want to make amends for. We're asking them, is there anything else that we have omitted, that we haven't recalled or haven't established through that inventory? And then we're asking them, how can we make the amends? But it's important that through that conversation that a line is then drawn and both move forward. It can't be the case that the non-alcoholic, the non-addict continues to throw things up, whenever they wish to. When we make these amends, we draw the line in the sand and we move forward together. And as we move through the book into, the chapter to the wives and the family afterwards, it talks about the family joining in this spiritual program and this spiritual way of working and this design for living, if they wish to. So there's encouragement there that the family join together in this way of living. But we'll come on to that when we get to that point. Because the reality of it is better, however, that one does not needlessly name a person upon whom she can vent jealousy. There's no point in bringing other people's names into it just to save our own skins. You know, it tells us that in the previous paragraph, that we're not to be the foolish martyr just to get the outcome that we require. If it's best for names not to be mentioned, then so be it. This next paragraph, where we're starting from, is very clear. Perhaps there are some cases where the utmost frankness is demanded. But here's the important line for me that really jumps out this morning. No outsider can appraise such an intimate situation. When we go back to the sex inventory, it is very clear-cut directions and instructions in there that no one can be the arbiter of anybody's sex conduct. No one. Okay? And that continues as we go into this amends process. I, with a sponsee as an example, and my sponsor with me as I was going through this process, could not appraise the intimate situations that I found myself in. Their experience of such situations were different from mine. It's a very private thing that needs to be dealt with the person that you're in the relationship with, of course. Now, we do seek guidance. I did talk to my sponsor about how to approach these amends, but when it came to the details of should we separate, or are we going 50-50 on, possessions, or whatever the case may be, I'm making this up as I go along. These are the things that are being put into my mind. My sponsor wasn't always able to guide me because they hadn't had that specific experience. They might have had to have called upon their own experience, or they would have directed me to somebody that had been through that specific experience as much as possible. They didn't just start to give me an opinion on something because they thought it's their role and, oh yeah, do you know what I would do about that? Well, how do they know? Just not appropriate. Sometimes I have heard, I call them super sponsors. Have you ever heard of them? Super sponsors that, advise people on, well, what you should do with your income is, and you should leave that job and go to the other job. And you shouldn't get into that relationship because he's been in a relationship with somebody else before. Or how about you just do this little course at college instead of the one that you're thinking about? They become some sort of, I think the term is life coach or whatever. I don't know. And I'm being a little bit cheeky, but it's not my, in case you haven't picked that up, but it's not my sponsor's responsibility necessarily to get involved in all of that stuff. Of course, we have beautiful conversations about it, but my life is my life. It's my accountability and my responsibility, guided by the power that is greater than me. We may well have these conversations, but as we move through the process, I've got that set of tools laid at my feet for me to be able to, step 10, continue to watch and take inventory through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God, where I get a lot of my answers. And by working with other people, I get a lot of support and answers too. So there's a whole dichotomy of stuff that can be pulled together into this. It's just not, oh, my sponsor told me to do this. It's more than that. It really and truly is more than that. And my sponsor often, and this is the bit that I just love about our program as well, my sponsor will often just say to me, I don't know. And isn't it a beautiful thing to be able to say, no, I don't know, and be that person that acts as if they know the answer to everything? Because that used to be me. I know what to do, and I know what you should do too to solve your problem. The beauty of being released from the bondage of myself is that I'm released from the bondage of trying to place all of my thoughts and opinions and judgments on you, on what you should do with your life. It's a very freeing thing. That's the benefits of practicing these principles in all of our affairs. So it goes on. it may be that both will decide that the way of good sense and loving kindness is to let bygones be bygones. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Why are we going to go down the drains of everything? Can we just let these bygones be bygones? I know that I've behaved inappropriately. I know I've been dishonest. I know I've been unfaithful. Here's what I've established. Let's have that conversation. And the other person might have been the same. You know, they might have gone off and had their pleasures elsewhere whilst we were doing the same. Okay, well, what's the agreement going forward? And that we pray going forward that our behaviours and our conduct will be better. Because here's the thing, we're on a different footing right now, aren't we? Each may pray about it, having the other one's happiness uppermost in mind, as opposed to, you know what, when you did this, and I did that, you made me do that because you did this, and I wouldn't have done that if you hadn't have done that. Oh my God, those days are gone. Those days are gone. Keep it always in sight that we are dealing with that most horrible, terrible human emotion, jealousy. Oh my goodness me. I was riddled with it. Riddled with it. And it's a horrible, horrible, horrible feeling. I'm sure there's plenty of us in this room this morning. Yeah, 50 people. I'm sure every single one of us has had an element of jealousy. Just a little element of it. Or else you've had full-blown jealousy that has determined every single action that you've taken, driven by 100 forms of fear. Yeah, you know, that green-eyed monster. Horrible feeling. I've even got a little queasiness in my stomach thinking about it. Horrible. And that's the type of thing that I have to watch in my daily, inventory. If that crops up, there's a set of tools that are given to us. I can't wait to get into step 10 in the next couple of weeks to go through all of that stuff when it crops up in the day. You know, we have to keep the other one's happiness in mind. This is a different way of living. Jealousy is not good. So why would we want to continue to talk about this stuff for the jealousy to continue? Again, we draw this line in the sand and we agree to move on. Either we let bygones be bygones. It's as good for the wife and the husband as it is for the addict, and we move on. We start afresh. Because the point of this is that our conduct is going to be improving anyway. Our behaviours are going to be improving anyway. We've written our sex ideal. We're looking at our sex ideal. We're working towards that. We've asked God to shape and mould us with respect to these matters. And if we deviate from that sex ideal, we will drink again. That's what it tells us. So if you've gone through this program, just a reminder, and you have not written your sex ideal and discussed that with your sponsor, then get it done. Get it done. Because relationships and things in recovery can get tricky. And in my experience, my bitter experience, this was the thing that ended me up drinking and drugging again, which then placed me in a treatment facility for 3.5 months. Genuinely, I was on death's door because of jealousy, relationships, what I wanted from another person. I couldn't get what I wanted. I became obsessed. I was plotting. I was planning. I didn't stick to my sex ideal. All of that. Laws is laughing. It's true. It's true. Yeah, it's true. I nearly went on to the bitter end, like it says on page 25, blotting out the consciousness of the intolerable situation. And in the end, the great persuader, that being alcohol, like it says on page 48, brought me to my knees, where I had no other option than to accept the spiritual help. That's where it takes us. That's why the sex ideal is so important. And we don't talk enough about it in the rooms. So let's start making it a comfortable thing to talk about rather than an uncomfortable thing to talk about, because the depth and weight that it brings to our recovery when we can stay within the spiritual principles when it comes to relationships of any nature. Oh my God. where we can stay true to our innermost self. It's the most powerful, beautiful thing to have this guidance, direction all the time when it comes to relationships, so that we don't repeat the behaviours and the conduct of the past. It's so incredibly important. Then another little instruction: good generalship may decide that the problem be attacked on the flank rather than a face-to-face combat. Quite a military sentence there, given that Bill was in the army back in the day. But there are these things where that, on the side, we need to have these conversations, and it's done, it's dusted, and we move on. Okay? I'm not going to say any more than that because I think I've made the point. These next two paragraphs are class, pure and utter class. They capture the essence of so much about the importance of step 9 and why we need to change, and why these amends are so incredibly important for the other people who we have impacted and affected in our lives. So if you have no such complication, i.e. if you haven't had any of those previous examples, there's probably still a lot. Don't be put off by the fact that, I've gone through all of these 8 or 9 examples and none of these apply to me, so I haven't got any amends to make. Whatever. Really? Get with the program is all I can say. Get with the program. If you think that you have no such complications and you're getting off scot-free, well, let's have a conversation about that, because really and truly, that is not a clear mind. You may not have had such complications, but you may have had many more complications that have come to mind through your inventories. Because there is plenty we should do at home. There is plenty that you should still do with your employer. There is plenty that you should still do with your friends. Okay? There's plenty that you should still do with any of your acquaintances. There's plenty you should still do with your home group and the people that you have impacted in any respect in your life. Get this line. I love this. And see, when I'm in a room and I hear this, I have to watch my facial expressions or be mindful of them, because I suffer from this other illness that gets rather progressive sometimes. And it's just like, I don't know, with all due respect, I suffer from this facial Tourette's, that when somebody says something, it's like, oh my God, what have they just said? And please forgive me that, yeah, that's the only way that I can describe it. I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody, but seriously, I have to watch my expressions sometimes on my face, because my face can tell a story as to what my thinking is telling me. That's one of the things I have to be really mindful of. Because when I hear this in the rooms and it's taken totally and utterly out of context from what it means in the book, I bristle with antagonism. Sometimes we hear an alcoholic say that the only thing he needs to do is to keep sober. Sure, I'm recovered now. I've done the 12 steps. I've had a spiritual awakening as a result of the 12 steps. I am fine, dandy. Everything's grand in my life. I'm basking in the sunlight of the spirit. It's so bright. I'm wearing shades. I'm loving life. And forget everybody else. Yous are just going to have to get on with it. I'm living my best life and being sober. Thank you. You're welcome. And they never deal with anything else. Some people call this the living amends. I'm just doing living amends. Is that right? How's that going for you? Like my sponsor would have said to me, how do you like them apples? Because this isn't really going to work out. To say that you've recovered and you're simply making living amends is not enough. It's just not enough. The amends process that you've gone through up to this point makes that expressly clear, in clear-cut, masterly detail. It's not okay just to sit in the rooms to say I'm making a living amends. We've got to clean up the past before we can move forward to live our life. And we do have a set of tools that are placed at our feet, of course, as we move forward in the steps 10, 11 and 12 to continue to make amends quickly in this moment today. It's not okay for me to go to just leave my sister having been in rehab and gone through my program and then speaking at meetings and being of service and thinking, oh, she's going to be all right. Sure, she can see me doing all of this wonderful stuff. She can see me going to meetings. She can see me helping other alcoholics. She knows that I'm speaking somewhere. What does my sister care about what I'm doing for everybody else in the fellowship? I have to make my amends with her directly, is what it says. So do not be fooled, seriously, by your egoic mind that will tell you, I'm all right, Jack. I've just sorted everything out by doing these steps and I'm just going to do the living amends. Not good enough. Honestly, not good enough. And you will not receive those 9th step promises in your life. In order to receive the 9th step promises, you need to take the action that is set out. You just don't get them via osmosis. I love that word, osmosis. I never realized that in my school when I was like 13 years of age that the word osmosis would feature in my life, really. Do you know, it's just that thing where I can't even remember what the process is anymore for osmosis. But I never thought when the teacher was teaching me, I was like sitting in the science class going, like, why do I need to know this information? But now I know what it means. And yeah, I can't soak everything up. You know, I have to take the action. I'm really on one this morning, aren't I? Please work with me, people. I hope I'm making some sense. So yeah, it's just not okay to say you're making a living amends. There are circumstances, of course, where you're going to continue to work through these things and you are living in the moment and you are continuing to make the amends. And it tells us in the next few paragraphs about that. But yes, certainly he must keep sober, for there will be no home if he doesn't. But he is yet a long way from making good to the wife or parents whom for years he has so shockingly treated. Think about that, people. Shockingly treated. That's our reality. That's the reality that I had to come to. That was the truth that I had to come to, which was shown to me through my inventories. I had treated people shockingly. So it's not good enough just for me to walk through life with a breeze skipping in the sunlight of the spirit and leave the devastation behind. No. Passing all understanding is the patience mothers and wives have had with alcoholics. Had this not been so, many of us would have no homes today, would perhaps be dead. That is me. That is me. And if you're really honest with yourself, is that you? And how could you possibly think that it's okay not to make an amends and that I'm all right, Jack, because I'm sober and I'm clean and I should be getting the respect that I deserve? Do they not know how much work I'm putting into this? Do they not know how difficult this is for me? Well, it may be, and it continues for your lifetime. But the reality of it is we caused the devastation. We wrecked the homes. And I can only speak from my own experience. I was not allowed in this house. I wrecked my nieces and nephews' lives at that point. My family had no other option than to let me go onto the streets because of how shockingly I treated them. And it's not okay for me to sit in the rooms to say, everything's okay, I'm just making living amends. No. I have to face direct amends and sit with these people and have a conversation. Yes, there are a couple of things that I had to deal with on the flank in relation to my conduct with other matters. And there are some people that I have not been able to get direct touch with, and I've had to send an email and all of that. But as much as possible, these amends are direct. And no. This is about my responsibility once and for all in my life. This is about my accountability once and for all in my life when I get to this step. And let me tell you now, it's difficult. It has been difficult. And those amends took a period of time to be completed. But as I sit here today, the freedom in my thinking, the freedom from the bondage of myself, and the peace of mind that I now have, where I do not have to cross the street to avoid you, that I do not avoid the phone calls from my family, that I can go to work with my head held high, knowing that I'm doing God's work well, is the importance of the work that we have to do within this step now. It's remarkable. That's what this is all about. And if you haven't done it, do it. Because the promises will be in every single part of your breathing moment when you take this action. That's my experience, and the experience of so many other people. And a little reminder, I love this last paragraph. I absolutely love it. I think about that movie, you know, that movie with the girl and her little dog. Obviously, Tradition 10 would not have me mention any outside matters. They walk up this colourful road and there's a big castle at the top of the hill, you know, all of that lovely music that they sing along the way. It's been recreated into another couple of movies recently. It reminds me of this, right? It reminds me of this paragraph. Anytime I talk about it, I see that little girl and the dog skipping up that road. So the alcoholic is like a tornado roaring his way through the lives of others. That was me. In my little red sparkly shoes, clicking my heels, thinking I was the best thing since sliced bread. And yet the house was in turmoil. People's lives were in turmoil. Hearts were broken. My sister's heart was broken. I never forget the heartache, and all the while I still drank and still caused devastation. Sweet relationships were dead. Gone. I thought forever. But that wasn't to be the case. Because by making these direct amends, life changes. My thought processes change. My perception of life changes. My perception of people changes. You see humanity through a completely different lens. Affections have been uprooted. Everything was uprooted. That tornado went circling through my life again and again and again. There wasn't just the one. Again and again and again. And they got more treacherous each time. As my progression of my illness continued, those tornadoes got more frequent and caused more and more devastation. Selfish and inconsiderate habits have kept the home in turmoil. My selfish and inconsiderate habits kept my family home in turmoil. Caused turmoil at work. Caused turmoil for my friends. You know, police sent to find me. They're not knowing whether I'm dead or alive. Turmoil, causing chaos. Wasting authorities' time and money. You know, and all the while I was sitting somewhere. And yes, I was sick. Yes, I was in my illness. Yes, but I had to do something about that. Here's the thing. This is a beautiful line. A beautiful line. Let this hit home. Because this is the reality. We feel a man is unthinking when he says that his sobriety is enough. Sure, it's okay. I'm sober. It's not enough. If you're thinking like that, like I used to, it's totally and utterly not right. It's not acceptable. It's totally and utterly unthinking. It's not, what are we even thinking about when it comes to that point? My attitude, like it says on page 66, I can start to see the world from an entirely different angle. My sobriety just isn't enough. It's not enough for my family, for my friends, for everybody in my life. Everything has to change. Because this was me, like the farmer who came up from the cyclone cellar to find his home ruined. To his wife, he remarked, "Don't see anything the matter here, ma. Ain't it grand? The wind stopped blowing. Don't see anything wrong here. Don't know why everybody's getting their knickers in a twist, because I'm grand. I'm sober. I've been clean for all of this time. I went into rehab for 3.5 months. Craziness. Look at me. I deserve a medal." No, that's not what this is about. I could have done an American accent there, but I wasn't going to embarrass myself. There was a gentleman that used to come to our meetings back in COVID, and he had the most adorable accent. And when he said that line, my heart just melted. But I can't do it like him. Doesn't matter what accent you say it in. Anyway, the point still remains the same. Okay? We caused the devastation. But isn't that line powerful? We feel a man is unthinking when he says his sobriety is enough. Wow. Here's another little gem. Yes, there is a long period of reconstruction ahead. This takes time. The list of people that I had to go through, it was a long road of reconstruction ahead. It was incredible. To keep the momentum, to be tenacious around this, to keep the energy moving forward, to go through that list, to continue to make the amends. But remember, our energy is just not of our own now. We're on a different footing. We've asked God in our step 7 prayer for his strength to go out to do his bidding, his power, his strength, his direction. And as I'm going through all of this, that power, that strength, that direction is enabling me to have this relentless attitude toward it. It's enabling me to go face these people. It's enabling me to make the preparations. Because here's the thing, we must take the lead. It's not just about me waiting for people to appear. It's not just about me thinking, the next time I see them, I'll do that. No, it's about the action. We must take the lead. Make the preparations. Get ready for these conversations, ready being for immediate use. My sponsor had me, write out all of the amends in readiness for the conversations coming. So I'd done all of the preparation. And here's another corker, a remorseful mumbling that we are sorry won't fill the bill at all. How many times have we said sorry? Oh, I'm sorry I did that, sister. I'm sorry I did that to the employer. I'm sorry. And we did the same thing again. Mumble, 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 jumble. No, that's not what this is about. A sincere desire to right the wrong. A calm, considered manner. Genuine, authentic spirit. We ought to sit down with the family and frankly analyse the past as we now see it, being very careful not to criticise them. Analyse the past. All of the stuff that we've brought up in our inventory. This is a detailed discussion that we're having with these people, not just a living amends. We sit down and we analyse the past. We sit quietly. We listen. We do not criticise them. I did this because you did. No, it's not tit for tat. That's no longer what this is about. Their defects may be glaring, but the chances are that our own actions are partly responsible. My sponsor didn't even give me the word partly. His instruction to me was, where were you responsible? Fully responsible. Fully responsible, because this amends is about you going in to change this. conversation, through what you've established in all of the wrongs, mistakes, blames, all of that from the inventory. So the point is, we clean house with the family, asking each morning in meditation that our Creator, the God of our own understanding, show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love. We're already starting to get into this way of living, of prayer, of meditation. You know, by this point, anywhere in the book that we ask, it's a prayer. You know, on page 59, the first one, we ask for his protection and care with complete abandon. There's many prayers of willingness as you go through your step 9. We know that back in our step 4 inventories, there was that sick man's prayer. It's no longer about the sick man's prayer because we're no longer sick as we're moving through this process. We've heard those words before. Page 67. At least God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. So we're having this change in our perception as we're moving into our 4th step. As we move into 5 and admitting and our defects and shortcomings are removed in 6 and 7, we're asking him to go, his strength to go out and do his bidding. We've made that list. Now we're at step 9. We are then emphasizing more this tolerance, kindness, love and patience. We're on a different footing. We've got something different working in and through us. We're tapping now into this inner resource that we fully understand is there. We no longer suspect it. It's there. The great reality, like it says on page 55, deep down within every man, woman and child, we're on a different footing. Because here's the thing. This paragraph, this line, it's just so important. These next 2 tiny little lines carry such depth and weight. The spiritual life is not a theory. Boom. In italics, we have to live it. We have to live it. It's not a theory. And here's where I'm at with this. You can attend every Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book study for the rest of your life. You can repeat every single word from the 164 pages for the rest of your life. You can study every single definition. You can place the page numbers. You can turn it upside down and still remember the page numbers. You can take quotes and little beautiful lines out of the big book and you can quote them till the cows come home. But if you are not living this, if you are not applying the principles in all of your affairs, if this is not your design for living in your day-to-day life, and it's just something that you do as a study, not enough. It's not enough. It's not okay for me to do a book study and not live this. Or go to my home group meeting and quote all of this stuff and act as if I'm this most wonderful person, and then when I go out on the street or I'm with my family and friends, I'm just the same as what I used to be. No, we have to live it. And it goes on then to talk more about the family. Unless one's family expresses a desire to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought not to urge them. Again, my wonderful, gorgeous, amazing sister, she's not interested in what I do with all of my spiritual principles. She probably thinks I'm a bit woo-woo, a bit mad, but I'm not going to shove all of this down her throat. But I know when she needs help, she comes to me and asks now, because she knows there's something different. My behaviours demonstrate that. My attitude demonstrates that. She's experiencing something different from me and I'm experiencing something different from her. It's a two-way street. We should not talk incessantly to them about spiritual matters. Can you imagine? We are not forcing this down other people's throats. They will change in time. Just because we're changing at the rate of knots within a couple of months, being away from the substances, and we're going through this program, we're being of service. Yes, we're changing, but they need time too. They're adjusting to this way of life. They're adjusting to us. They sometimes don't even know the person that's sitting in front of them. They don't know what to do with us anymore because they're expecting the anger, the reactions, the jealousy from the past. They will change in time. We've got to allow them that time. You know, it's no longer about controlling them and getting what we want when we want it. Our behaviour will convince them more than our words. Convinced through the whole book is to be moved by the evidence. So our behaviours, moved by the evidence of our behaviours and how we live this every single day, will make more progress with our relationships with these people than any word would ever. Because remember, our words were as weak as water prior. As weak as water. They didn't mean anything. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness would make a skeptic out of anyone. Absolutely. And that's why every single day I make spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection. Spiritual progress, not perfection. What was good enough for yesterday is not good enough for today. What's good enough for today is not going to be good enough for tomorrow. That's what the progress is. Little by little, by little by little, people around us start to see the change. We start to experience the change. And it goes into that when we go to the 9-step promises. And then lastly, this last example of the 8 or 9 that we've gone through, there may be some wrongs we can never fully right. Absolutely. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would right them if we could. So don't go into this morbid reflection. Oh, I can't do that because, oh, I can't do that because. No, don't go into the self-pity, the bitter morass that stretches all around us. No, you don't live in the past any longer. You're living in this moment. If you could sincerely say that you would right that wrong if you could, then you will do it if the moment arises. Always keep it in mind. You know, with my mother, like, treated her shockingly. Even, oh my God, even in her dying days. I watched that precious, beautiful lady take her last breath. And I wasn't hardly even present for that because I couldn't wait to get out of the room to continue doing what I wanted to do. And the whole way through the wake, the funeral, and thereafter, my behaviour was despicable. Despicable. But could I right that wrong? Absolutely. Absolutely, I could right that wrong. In this moment, could I right that wrong? 100%. Because it was no longer about my drinking. It was no longer about my drinking and drugging. It was about what I could do in this life. You get those graveside amends. Scott Lee does an amazing talk on Step 9. I've said it before. Scott L. from Nashville, his Step 9 discussions are just incredible. And I was guided by that, and I was guided by other people in the fellowship. And, you know, I made that amends and free from that and able to not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. To be free from all of that and to be able to help other people with that, you know. Some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter. Yeah, you could write a letter. The graveside amends. Write a letter. Do whatever. Discuss it with your sponsor, whatever is appropriate. But what the thing here to emphasize is, if you cannot, if there is anybody in your life that cannot be seen, don't hold on to the regret that they cannot be seen, because that will take you somewhere else. That will take you to remorse. That will keep you in the past. That will fill you full of guilt. That will fill you full of shame. You will not overcome that. if you continue to think in that circular conversation in your own head, oh, if only I had have done, no, you don't live there anymore. We've got to take the spiritual action to be able to live in this moment and do what we've got to do in this moment to overcome whatever the fear, anxiety, guilt, shame, remorse, whatever. It's in this moment. And the 9th step promises you will reap the benefits of that. And we'll talk about that next week. There may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases, but we don't delay if it can be avoided. Previously, it's talked about if somebody's still wreathing from our actions and behaviours, you're probably best to leave them for a period of time until both people cool down, that you can cool down and they can cool down. There's no point going into conversations with people that are still angry at you. You know, there might be a period of time where we have to delay it to allow that calming to take place, or it just might not be appropriate because we can't get access to the individual because we're not allowed access to the individual, but hold it in mind. And if you are willing, when the moment arises, that you will still take the action, that's the point. Here's another little beautiful guideline to help us, this clear-cut direction. We should be sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble without being servile or scraping. Isn't that beautiful? What a beautiful, wonderful way of looking at this. Sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble. I was none of those in my addiction. I was scraping on my knees, begging for you to love me. And then going out and doing the same behaviours and conduct again. Whereas now, I am not scraping. I am not servile. Because here's the reason why. As God's people, because I am a child of God, I am a perfect child of God, we stand on our feet. We don't crawl before anyone. Those days are gone. Those days are 100% gone. I have a level of support, direction, guidance that enables me to be tolerant, patient. God gives me the humility to approach these conversations in a way that I've never been able to before. These step 9 direct amends are priceless. Priceless. And if you have not experienced them to the extent that these masterly detailed directions, please give yourself the opportunity, because you will 100% experience the 9th step promises in a way that you won't even have the words to explain. It's powerful. And we'll do those promises next week.